isn't it so nice of the scientists? They're growing salmon in a beaker because the salmon are too damn stupid to reproduce themselves. They're such nice scientists. Peace and blessings, family. Sister Ajali. This will probably be a slightly longer share, but it's absolutely necessary. Even if you don't want to listen to the whole share, support the crazy woman who's doing massive research to just be of assistance to Black us. And my long-term desire, my long-term goal is to get the ability to test our food for radiation. That is absolutely critical. It's not an elective, it's vital to the long-term health and perpetuation of us as a beautiful people. Now, getting right into it, also like, comment, share, subscribe, and donate. You can do that at my Patreon account. I got to put the link to the Patreon in the pinned comments. And also at $Radical Sister through Cash App. And you are so helpful. Oh my goodness. I haven't said that in a while, but that's because I've been just producing so many different products and will continue to do so. All of my products and my King's amazing products, oh my goodness, are available at 25,000 Years Cycle. Go visit a website that just is there for you. All right, let's get into this. This is sort of a response to a mighty brother who doubted my warning about bewaring attaching the jab rhetoric. Was it the jab to everything that's killing regular people? I don't know how I'm even going to put all of this together, but I am. Because, first off, to not consider both probabilities so that you just, for some reason, need to just attribute every single thing that happens to humans to the jab. I don't understand that. They use multiple methods of genocide. If they need to use a gun, they'll use a gun. If they need to use a bomb, they'll use a bomb. Same thing, especially when it comes to silent wars. When it comes to killing people so that they don't even put up a fuss or fight. How in the world is it possible to just want to stick with one particular method of murdering people when the Georgia Guidestones is just talking about taking out billions? Why not use as much as possible? And thereby, I want to make the clean difference between a porcupine for the rampant censorship that wasn't even a porcupine. It was a whole bunches of stuff that, because of the censorship, the dudes who censor everything, they never censored my ability to talk about Fukushima because they trust that you're not going to do any research about it whatsoever. And you're going to listen to me as, oh, she's just a housewife. When who made you? Who made me? The creator who did not go to Harvard or Yale or Princeton. So if you look at this universe, whoa, okay? The jab was only administered to, here in the unentitled Snakes of America, 40% of Black you and me. 40% of Black you and me. That's a real small percentage for then to attribute each and every single one of our deaths to that particular trajectory. It is a just the way they strategize this is truly insidiously, I don't even want to call it brilliant, because brilliant is something that sounds like it's a good thing. It's just evil. It's just evil genius type of thing. They know we're going to be looking for the conspiracy behind all of it. They know we don't trust them out the bat. And so the fact that I was seeing all these people by the thousands talking and just breaking apart the details of the toxicity of the jab. But when it came to radiation, when Fukushima popped off, most people were talking about how it's no more harmful than what's in a banana. Let me show you what's in a banana. Naturally occurring radionuclides in food. They were talking about potato chips and, even rocks. But ain't no rock killed the Pacific Ocean, okay? So potassium 40 equals 0.0000071 curies per gram. In a curie, you've got the equivalent, let me get the data. Convert becquerel to curie. 1 becquerel has the power of, in an atom, in 1 atom of radiation. You cannot see an atom. You could have 1 million atoms on the tip of a pin, and you will not be able to see them. 1 atom has the power, when it's measured as a becquerel, to flip 1 grain of sand. That's a dang-nammit whole bunch of power coming from an atom. So how many becquerels are in a curie? 2.702702702, and it just keeps on going on to the 11th power. Okay? That is trillions, megatrillions of becquerels. That's 2 times 11, okay? And this way is a little bit easier to understand, where it's going from a curie to a becquerel. Just to emphasize, 1 curie contains within it, what the heck is that? It's hard for me. Let's see, because I need the commas. There, and there. Okay, so that's 37 million becquerels. But understand, we're talking the continuous release of energy from just 1 atom. These becquerels, they don't stop. And when they say becquerels, they mean gamma waves, alpha and beta particles, all combined, all mixed together. So you're talking over a protracted amount of time, a tremendous amount of energy. And so when you look at the amount of curies in a banana, naturally occurring potassium 40, and then you look at the amount of curies in 1 gram of cesium-137 or strontium 90, you got 88 curies per gram. 140 curies per gram of strontium 90 is known as the bone seeker because it mimics calcium in your body. Cesium-137, well, let's go to another meme. Cesium-137 mimics potassium. So let's read this quote that's coming from the book The Crime of Chernobyl, the Nuclear Gulag, written by Vladimir Cherkov. I thank him very much for that because it's an intense book. We all have deposits. That's what they're called. It is in the muscles, in tissues, that cesium, a man-made radioisotope, forms a sediment. Cesium is the exact chemical equivalent of potassium. We know that the heart muscle contains 20 times more potassium than any other muscle in the body. It also contains more cesium, given that it is the chemical equivalent of potassium. The more active the muscle, the more radioactive cesium it will accumulate. Now, I was going over years and years before any of the questions about was it the jab came out over the death of our athletes. And I showed the parallels when I went over all of those for years before anything popped off between their tragic die-off. We should not be talking about our own fellow people as if they're just leaves in the wind. But still, it's like, oh, look at this jump off of racehorses dying on the West Coast, which got pummeled by Fukushima radiation. I knew the reason before I read The Crime of Chernobyl is that radiation causes heart attacks due to cesium-137. If they don't report it in the paper, they don't report that man-made radiation is exponentially worse than what's in a banana. And on top of that, your body is formulated by the Creator to recognize potassium-40 coming from a natural source. And so it off-gasses any excess. That's why you don't see people wearing hazmat suits collecting bananas in a Chiquita banana grove. Okay? And so what have this article up here is to prove that when it comes to understanding the devil's trajectory of genocide, he's never going to confess. You have to be a detective. I watch so many detective shows, and these people, I know white people, one white murderer after another, most of them don't confess. They have to put together the evidence so that it is incontrovertibly obvious who the perpetrator was. Thereby, this is a very interesting story here. Cellular salmon. I have never heard of the thing. Bezos-backed group says cellular salmon could be in U.S. restaurants later this year. Now, as a just side issue, what they're doing is growing a salmon substitute from getting one salmon cell and replicating it in a controlled environment. I highly don't recommend eating that. There is an interaction of life that's sacred, that these friggin' specializers to the point where there's no life left in anything they produce are not acknowledging that. There's a hormonal cascade that goes on in every single life form. Salmon will go out, they used to, they will go out into the Pacific Ocean for 2 years at a stretch. And like clockwork, or they used to like clockwork, will return to the salmon spawning grounds, to the specific river that they will create the next generation of salmon. When we attribute behaviors of animals and creatures in general to instinct, when we are feeling the urge to procreate, meaning, wow, he was sexy. Ooh, she hot. That's instinct. That is the command, which is so precise from the Most High, that he puts us together so it just feel good. Okay? And so in that cascade of salmon's instinct, they feel good doing that. And that sends a hormonal flow straight to their eggs, straight to their reproductive gonads. So when they get together, that brand new generation of salmon is given a language of life and ever more abundantly. These dudes right here, what they're concocting together, and that's not in there. So you're eating something that is, I know you think, well, but I'm going to cook it anyway. It's been spiritually cooked. There's no soul left in whatever they're producing in a laboratory. Okay, that's the side part. But here's where you find the evidence of the devil's genocide is because you would think, what? You growing salmon from cells? Maybe it's cheaper. You would think it's cheaper to do this sort of crap. Oh, the hell no, it's not. Rabobank, farm salmon prices remain high in 2023 as species ignores economic macro trends. Why would a natural species be ignoring macro trends? Because the price of salmon is soaring beyond the range of most consumers to purchase it. But that's not the end of the evidence. And because remember, salmon roe, caviar, where they, as long as there's, they don't mind taking apart all of the different fish they get it from and collecting the caviar, there's always dumb people out there who are going to value it and purchase it. The salmon are disappearing. I've gone over, there's a whole thing called the salmon famine going on right now. And they're trying to minimize how there are farmers, farm fisheries and all the rest of it, but there are seamen who their entire way of making a living has collapsed. Here's part of the evidence also. 70 million, and they tried to make fun of this, like, oh, this is silly. Why are they doing this? Why are they spending $70 million for salmon? Let's put it in there with all the other silly stuff. $3 million for bee-friendly highways and $3.6 million for Michelle Obama Trail. Some of the odd riders attached to the $1.7 trillion omnibus bill. That $70 million for salmon is because each year almost, they're giving money to keep these fisheries open. And it used to just be the sailing vessels that would go out into the Pacific looking for salmon, and they come back with maybe like 1, 2, 3 fish, literally. And they've got those giant nets. It's now affecting the salmon fisheries that are also situated in the open water, but they just have, little stalls around their fisheries. But radiation don't give a goddamn about that. And so that's why something that if the price is going up, surely why are you trying to come up with a whole new way of developing salmon as if there's no more salmon? What is killing them? And here they say something silly like, we tried cell-grown salmon that looks, feels, and tastes real. Its makers want it to be the norm someday. Of course they do, because they don't want people getting pissed off that they killed all the damn salmon. Here they even admit this complicated food production method. Why would you need to do something that obviously should be even more expensive than today's current market for salmon? Why would you need to grow it in a daggone lab? And so as, Jill Biden just announced, see, the stories that are in the media that don't get blasted out all over the place, those are the ones I pay attention to. So when Jill Biden just kind of inconsequentially said, oh, there's going to be an epic rise in the number of cancer rates. I know from 2 years after Fukushima blew, the World Health Organization said the same exact daggone thing. They didn't say anything about, and a future jab is going to do that. No, there was actually, within 1 year, an increased rate of death in the United States amongst people of 37,000 deaths. This was compiled painstakingly by I do believe Joseph Mangano, who also did epic research on radioactive baby teeth. But study U.S. deaths tied to Fukushima disaster fallout. Okay? Impact seen as roughly comparable to radiation related deaths after Chernobyl. Now, Chernobyl in no way is as epic a disaster, and it is an epic disaster, as Fukushima, because they put a sarcophagus on top of Chernobyl. Ain't no sarcophagus ever going to be proposed to put on top of Fukushima because they would crumble, if not explode. I'm quite sure within, I would say, a year as a rough estimate, but probably more likely days, okay? And so sucker hasn't stopped. It hasn't stopped. It's still emitting all of its deadly radioactive emissions. You think it stopped killing people? So for these dudes to be now shipping all food in from Fukushima prefectures and announcing there'll be no more alerts whatsoever, you think that they wouldn't develop deflections so we don't pay attention to where the death has come from? Because if they're shipping that food in, where do you think they sending it to? As much as they stress to black us, you're really vulnerable for this thing. Everybody in my community is just fine. And then we have such a low rate of going out and getting the jab. They had to bring in Spike Lee trying to get grandma to go on, get a free taxi. They're giving everything away for free. Pot even. And we still have such a low rate. You think they're not looking for every single manner there is to hide their bloody hands? Including blaming, which I don't mind if every single black woman on the planet just realizes that creamy crack is really toxic. It gets into your brain. It's why a lot of us are out of our daggone minds. But all of a sudden, almost every single law firm out there is starting up a lawsuit to sue for the cancer that's being caused by creamy crack. I'm not saying it doesn't cause cancer. I'm saying why all of a sudden? Why in the world do these Caucasians suddenly care about our hair when they never have before? While in Japan, there's been no lessening of the contamination rate of every bit of soil around Fukushima. And they're in a race to get cellular salmon into restaurants all over the daggone place, and it's a super extra complicated thing to do. Do you think it's all the jab's fault? I'm just saying. I love you, brother. Oh my goodness, please don't be mad at me because I am a woman and I wish I was just trying to give this damn thing away. But nobody wants it. And so, as a woman, I'm supposed to be soft and gentle and kind. And actually, that's who I am. That's who I am. But I'm not arguing with you. I'm arguing at the indoctrination, the programming. You asked me, why would all of this be happening? Because they want the most effective genocide to take place since there are cures for radiation contamination. There's no cure for believing that it's just the jab. Most of us didn't even get it. So we're going to just keep, because it feels easy, we're going to just keep attributing everything that happens to us to that pokey thing. I'm not saying that some of it isn't. But do you think this might be more of a factor? If it's wiping out whole species and only 40% of us were ever at some doctor visit. Do you think this might be more of a factor, beloved? And do you think those cures are the reason why they don't want you blaming the more likely cause, the more obvious trajectory of the evidence? And they want you looking at something that more than likely you didn't get. And so you're going to feel like, well, I'm good. It's all about that. It's all about that pokey thing. I have to worry. Societally, she's just crazy. She's so excessive. You think this is excessive? I love you. All right? Go to 25,000yearcycle.org. My king, I have the joy of being around that man so that I observe a brother in just his top form, working for our family. So he just is going over all the different healing protocols that he employs in all of his formulas that they're just going to get you right and exact. That's a fact. Okay? And he wonderfully has allowed me to have my products up on here. The soap, my books, my t-shirt that was designed by brother Chris Miller. That's up here too. Support your warriors, because these folks out here, they ain't your friends, right? All right, I love you. I know I said that 3 times, but it just is what it is. I could say it 1,000,000 and I would be no ways tired. Peace and blessings, straight Black family pride.